Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, the 7th of May. And I want to talk about occult knowledge that is creating the world as it is, and the dark forces, the dark knowledge that is in this world. Again, occult knowledge is the knowledge of the hidden forces within you, not beings in the astral zone, within you, the kingdom within you. And that knowledge is neither good nor bad. Good and bad comes into being through what you do with that knowledge, how you use it. And I want to talk about the difference between, let's say, occult societies that may have used their knowledge for the betterment of humanity, and those that are deliberately going the wrong way to serve themselves. And it's all built based on the same knowledge, on the same understanding. Now, before I start, the idea in the old thinking that is still in the occult societies, the idea that was destroyed by Christianity, pretty much. The way you see yourself and the universe around you. I've come across the idea of Abraxas, which is a depiction of the fullness, what the Gnostics then would call the pleroma. Again, something that is within you. So, just quickly, the depiction of it, a rooster's head, about the body of a man, 2 snakes as feet, holding a shield and a whip. Okay, before we start, that is not a god. That is most certainly not a being that is existing somewhere in the center of the universe or something. Every part of the depiction has meaning. I'll just start with the rooster's head. It is the awakening, the call to awakening. The rooster that crows in the morning at dawn to bring the light. And so every other part of this figure has got a meaning. But the biggest meaning is really the fullness, and that is where you have to start. If you go into occult knowledge, that is the starting point. And that is the firm belief that light and darkness, that the polarities do exist, and that they come from the same source. Yeah? And there's nothing outside of that source. Everything that exists is the source. Therefore, darkness and light are both the source. And then really recognizing the aspects within yourself, the forces within yourself. Now, Christianity has divided them clearly into black and white, into darkness and light, and the light must fight the darkness. You must overcome the darkness, which is something that was actually not in the old thinking. It is not a war, so to speak, but to see what those forces can do and how they can be used for good. Even a destructive force can be used for good. Or it can just be destructive. There's the thing, it can just be destructive. But it's still emanating from the same source. Again, it is how you use it. How do you use your destructive force? For instance, in the severance of a relationship, that is a destructive act. You destroy the relationship. But if the relationship was no good, it was hurtful, it was not beneficial to you, then the destructive act of severing that relationship is good. At the same time, you could go and destroy other relationships, sever somebody from a relationship that is actually good for them. In which case, the destructive act, the exact same act of severing a relationship can be either good or bad. So there's really the acknowledgement of it all comes from the same source, it all can be used for good, or it can be utterly destructive, just destructive. So it's not a case of labeling stuff good and bad and then setting it at war with each other. It's not how it works, and that is not the understanding. That was not the first understanding. That was destroyed by the Christianity, which then did create the separation and the war, which then starts raging within a person, manifesting as fear, as guilt, as I don't know what, but out of a wrong judgment, not based on sound judgment, wrong understanding of what it is you are. So that is the first thing. And if you want to understand what the occult societies are doing, you must see it from their point of view to understand what it is they're doing, and that was their point of view. The fullness, the existence of darkness and light from the same source. There's no separation. So again, we're talking about oneness, actually. We are talking about oneness. But now the New Agers talking about oneness again they are in the world war between darkness and light. And then to them, oneness is making a choice. And that is not what leads to oneness. Oneness is the acknowledgement that both exists from the same source, and then use it correctly. That is the oneness you must reach, that includes the fullness and not cutting away parts of yourself to create just one light. So that's the first thing. And then there is, again, what I talked about yesterday, and that is the creation of a persona, of an I am. And there is then going further out into the existence of a field from which you receive through the creation of a persona. The persona is really asking for what it is you receive. Yeah? So if you say, again, I am the loser, you're creating the persona of the loser. The loser will receive according to what it is. The loser will lose. The victim will be set upon. The winner will win. But it is a persona you create first that receives. Now, and here is really what I've been thinking about let me first say, and there is what Jesus taught, and again what the occult societies know. In the field there is no judgment. It gives. It gives to what you think you are, what you've created yourself to be. Actually, you need to be that. You need to be I am. And you will receive according to that. There is no judgment in the field. It gives indiscriminately to all, or each according to what it is. The birds in the sky, the lilies in the field. The birds in the sky do not get mud, and the lilies in the field don't get bird seed. Each gets according to what it is. And also the saying in the Bible that it raineth on the just and the unjust in equal measures. There is no judgment in the giver. There should be sound judgment in the receiver of what it is you are and what it is you want. Again, what it is you want to receive, you have to be. So all of that knowledge, again, is what you might call occult knowledge, meaning hidden knowledge. It is hidden from most people. That whole way of thinking is hidden from most people. Most people are in a religion that is the war between good and bad. That is their view. That is what they think they're in. And most likely the war is happening somewhere outside of them. Yeah? It's beings in the astral zone and humanity, or they don't see the war within, which is where you really have to look. Now I want to come to occult societies and what they've actually been doing, where we come really to black magic, and that is magic, not magic. It's not magic, it's knowledge, but working the knowledge in a way it should not be used. Again, anything can be used for good or for bad. And that black magic is basically using a knowledge in a way it should not be used. How do you know good? It is beneficial. It creates something good. So I was thinking about the Freemasons and really the development that I can see within the Freemasons, something that happened there. Because in the beginning, in the very beginning, the Masons were just that. They were Masons. They were stone masons. They were builders. They built buildings. That is what Masons were. They were divinely inspired builders. Therefore, to say, they built buildings that were beyond what a normal down-to-earth builder would build. Yeah, they were divinely inspired in building, and that's how the cathedrals and all those great buildings came into being. It came from a greater knowledge. And again, that knowledge was said to have come from somewhere else. The greater field, the matrix, the all. So divinely inspired builders. That's what they were at the start. Again, how did they get their inspiration? Let's say it like that. By being I am. I am a builder. This is my intention. And really focusing everything on that task. Becoming the builder. And then receiving into that persona of the builder. Leaving out other aspects of yourself, of what you might be. Because usually in our lives we're multitasking. Yeah? We are, like for myself, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I've got a job. And, you switch from one persona to another during the day. But they become a oneness. I am the builder. That's all I am. And everything is received into that persona. So in the beginning, they were Masons. And it is, I would say, there are practices, again, of concentrating your mind, concentrating yourself just onto that one persona. Yeah, and forgetting everything else. Losing yourself, losing the rest of yourself in that one persona. And I'd say there are practices, occult practices, that will create that shift, that concentration on the one point. Okay, so again, in the beginning, they were just Masons. That was Masonic knowledge, passed from Mason to Mason. Builders, amongst the Builders Guild. Now they seem to have branched out later on, because you hear about others that were Masons that were not builders. Mozart was a Mason. Mozart was a composer. So the practice of concentrating everything into the one aspect can be used by others that can concentrate on a different aspect. Yeah, it's not just builders that can do that. Composers can do that. There were others that were Masons, scientists that were Masons. Really every field, and then to excel in just that one aspect of yourself. So, and I think really that, especially with the Freemasons in the beginning, there was an idea that this was done for the betterment of humanity. Absolutely. I believe that idea was there. To bring out something that is beyond normal for the betterment of humanity. Of course, the one who does it does sacrifice every other aspect of his life. And I'm kind of wondering already if even that practice was altogether good. Because I said there is a sacrifice. And if you look at those geniuses, which they were, beyond normal human capability, as I said, divinely inspired, although they were, obviously they did excel in their field, there seems to have been a trade-off with the other aspects of themselves, which makes perfect sense. If you concentrate everything into one aspect, the other aspects will lose out. So quite often, if you look at these, as I said, geniuses, you will find that they were social basket cases, that they were lacking in morals and other things. So, as I say, there was a trade-off. Quite often you could see a trade-off. So if the concentration on the one point to excel whilst losing out on others, is that actually a good trade-off? I'm not sure. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but there's a downside. There seems to be a downside to that, clearly. But I do believe that is what they did, to create beings that would excel through practice of creating of a persona and then concentrating everything into that one persona. Now, and I believe it was done for the betterment of humanity. Now, this would be the light side, the good use of that. Well, as I said, even there's a trade-off. So it's not altogether good. Everything contains good and bad. Again, darkness and light are part of the same thing. Black magic, or the wrong use of that knowledge, and I think that is what is being done in the world today. Absolutely what is being done. And I'm not accusing at this moment the Freemasons of that. I don't know if they do go into the practice of the other side. I don't know that. But there are plenty of occult societies in this world, besides the Freemasons. And some of them are definitely in that practice. And that is the way you can bring out a good aspect of yourself, a beneficial aspect of yourself. You can also bring out a destructive aspect of yourself. You can use the same practice. The thing is that you are elevating one part of yourself to receive all. And again, it can be used for good or bad. So I'm looking at people like Jeffrey Epstein and others, where an aspect that the sexual predator, lust, greed, where the sexual predator was elevated to become the persona, to become the one that receives. That is what was done. I mean, you can say a lot of things about Jeffrey Epstein. And that is, obviously, you can judge what he did. If you were of sound judgment, of a balanced person, you can see the bad in what he did, obviously. The hurt that he caused, the destruction. But another thing you must acknowledge, if you see the fullness of the picture, is that Epstein absolutely excelled in what he was. He was probably one of the, if not the most successful sexual predator in our lifetime. He was absolutely excelling at what he did. Now, is that done for the betterment of humanity? I would not think so. But it will serve the few. It will serve somebody. So again, it is the same practice of bringing out just one part of yourself and excelling in that. Now, the reason I think why this is so successful at the moment and why so many are drawn to that is yes, because they were in the war within themselves to start with. Yeah. Again, this war that was created by the thinking of Christianity, of the black and white thinking of light and darkness being at war with each other, and they had that war raging within themselves. Divide and conquer. That is divide and conquer. It is inside of yourself. And Christianity is divide and conquer. Instead of, again, the old thinking of accepting the fullness and see how you can work it for good, every aspect of it. So I would say many of them were in that war. They were guilt-ridden. They were in fear. So how are they drawn into these societies and into the really dark ones? I would say they were offered forgiveness, love, acceptance. You are what you are, and it is fine. Because that is what Epstein's supposed to have said about himself. I now know what I am, and I'm fine with that. It's fine. You are what you are. It's great. And so acceptance of yourself as the predator. And then more than that, feeding that beast. Feeding that beast. Making it great. Making the beast great. Again, as before, in what I believe happened in the Masons and others, to elevate something that is actually good, beneficial, greatness, but to elevate a dark aspect and call that great. See, we should acknowledge the dark aspects in ourselves. Absolutely, we should. And there is a way where they can do good. We should see that also. But we should not elevate the dark aspects of ourselves as the only truth. Again, making a choice. Again, there's a choice that was made, the trade-off between just that one aspect and everything else that you might be, all the other possibilities that are within you. So I'm not sure that that trade-off is good, even in the beneficial way. I'm not sure it is good. But that is what's being done. In order to understand all of that, you must acknowledge good and bad coming from the same source being within you. You must integrate your shadow. As long as you're going around this world saying there's only light and light is the only truth, you will not even be able to understand what it is they're doing, because they're coming from a completely different place. They're not saying light is the only truth. They're saying the fullness is the truth. And every aspect of the fullness can be worked for good or for bad. Good magic, black magic. As I said, what is happening in this world is mostly black magic. That is the deliberate elevation of. Again, let me just say this, lust to a point is good. Obviously, sexual desire to a point is good. Actually, lack of sex can be very bad for you. The right amount, again, it is the right amount in the right place at the right time. There is a mark you have to hit where it is good. And again, you go beyond that, you're going back into darkness. You're in darkness before that point, you're going back into darkness after that point. To know where the point is. And they are going beyond the point into where the thing becomes powerful, yes, but utterly destructive. It's no good doing away with lust altogether. You must accept it as part of the fullness. If you judge it as bad, you're judging wrong. It is there. It exists. It's coming from the same source as everything else. Use it correctly. But it is a knowledge of yourself, what you are and what it is you're in, and how this actually works. As I said, knowledge can be used for good or for bad. But for those that are not even in the correct knowledge, that are in the wrong judgment, in the wrong judgment of black and white, good and evil, seeing it the wrong way, they will never understand what it is these societies are actually doing. You must come from the basis of their knowledge, from their understanding, to see what it is they're doing. And I think this is what it is they're doing. It is a knowledge. It can be worked. It has been worked in this world. Divinely inspired people were in this world. And many did things that were for the betterment of humanity. But as I said, the same knowledge can be used for bad if you elevate the wrong aspect and make it utterly destructive. That's black magic. And it's not magic at all. It's knowledge. They know what it is they're doing. And I think many that stumble into this do not know what they're doing. Yeah. They go there with the promise of, we forgive you, we love you as you are. And here's forgiveness without repentance, forgiveness without correction. A person should be corrected to the point where all the aspects are in a good place, in a beneficial place, beneficial to life. That correction should happen. But what these societies offer is forgiveness without correction. You have to do nothing. You are what you are, and what you are is fine. And that is not truth. But that's why they're going. They're getting love, they're getting acceptance without having to do a damn thing. In fact, they can actually go deeper into the wrong that is within, the imbalance that is within them. They can go fully into it, and it will be called good. And that is the dark side of it. And I really think that is, they are creating men, they are creating monsters, fully knowing what it is they're doing, based on knowledge, true knowledge, scientific knowledge of the unseen. And they are creating monsters. That is the world we are increasingly in. It is ruled over. It is in control of monsters that were created in that way. So I think where we must go, first of all, we need to get out of the wrong black and white thinking, because we don't know what we're in and we do not understand what it is we're doing. We're fighting wars within and without that are the wrong wars, based on the wrong understanding. The full acceptance of the fullness, of the pleroma, of the field that is within you. And to learn how, as I said, not label the aspects good and bad, but see how each aspect can be used for either good or bad. It makes things an awful lot more complicated. It does. And it puts responsibility of what it is you are and what it is you're doing on yourself, because you are the one that should work on yourself. Should have knowledge of yourself, should have mastery of yourself. Yeah, so you cannot point out there to the astral zone and say, it's all created up there. Nothing to do with me, it's got everything to do with you. You are part creator in what is happening here. Really, humanity needs to grow up in the knowledge, in the correct knowledge of itself, and work that knowledge in a way that is beneficial. So, anyway, I think I leave it at that for today. And I talk to you again soon. Bye.